The first time you see a private jet up close, the economics seem almost impossible. A sleek Gulfstream sits on a runway, polished until it reflects the sunlight. Inside, there is a bedroom, a dining area, leather seats, satellite internet, and enough space to make a commercial business class cabin feel ordinary. Its passengers don't wait in airport lines. They don't worry about connecting flights, and they don't have to ask whether the flight schedule works for them. The jet works for them, but that convenience comes with a strange financial reality. A private aircraft can cost tens of millions of dollars before it carries its first passenger. And once the purchase is complete, the owner still has to pay for pilots, maintenance, insurance, hangar space, fuel, inspections, upgrades, and an endless list of expenses that continue whether the aircraft flies or stays parked. So why would anyone willingly buy one? At first, the answer seems obvious because they're wealthy enough to afford it. But that explanation misses the real story. Because some private jets aren't simply luxury purchases. They're pieces of a much larger economic machine involving corporations, charter operators, aircraft managers, lenders, tax structures, brokers, and wealthy passengers who may never actually own the aircraft they fly in. And then there is one of the strangest details in private aviation. A jet can be extremely expensive even when nobody is sitting inside it. Every time an aircraft flies from New York to London carrying its passengers, it eventually has to get somewhere else. If the next customer is waiting in London, that's simple. But if the next paying customer is in New York, the aircraft may have to fly back empty. No passengers, no ticket revenue, still burning fuel, still paying crew, still consuming the aircraft's limited operating life. These so-called empty legs can represent one of the biggest hidden inefficiencies in the industry. And yet, surprisingly, they can also create opportunities for someone else to make money. This is where private aviation stops looking like a collection of billionaires buying expensive toys and starts looking like a business. Because the aircraft itself is only the beginning. The real question is what happens to the money after someone buys it. Who absorbs the enormous operating costs? Who earns revenue when the owner isn't flying? Why would an aircraft owner allow strangers to charter their jet? How does depreciation change the calculation? And why can spending millions on an aircraft sometimes be connected to corporate strategy, taxes, or the value of time itself? The answers reveal an industry where the person sitting in the cabin is only one part of the transaction. And once you understand who is actually paying for the flight, the private jet starts to look very different. Because behind the champagne, leather seats, and billionaire image is an economic system designed around one scarce resource that even the richest people cannot buy more of: time. And that is where the real economics of private aviation begin. A private jet does not begin costing money when it takes off. It begins costing money the moment you own it. At the lower end of the market, a light jet might cost several $1,000,000. Move into midsize and super midsize aircraft, and the price can climb into the tens of millions. Heavy and ultra, long-range jets can push far beyond $50 million. With some of the largest models approaching or exceeding $100 million when heavily customized. But the purchase price is only the number everyone notices. The real calculation is total cost of ownership. An aircraft loses value as it ages, and unlike a building or productive factory, a jet generally becomes less valuable as it accumulates flight hours and maintenance cycles. Financing adds interest. Leasing can reduce the upfront commitment, but it doesn't eliminate the underlying economics. Then come the fixed costs. Pilots need to be paid. Insurance continues. Hangar space costs money. Maintenance programs, inspections, subscriptions, and management fees continue whether the aircraft flies today or sits untouched for 3 weeks. Then there are variable costs: fuel, landing fees, catering, and expenses directly connected to each flight. And this creates the fundamental problem. A jet sitting on the ground is still expensive, but it is producing almost no economic value. So the question isn't simply whether someone can afford a $50 million aircraft. It's whether they can keep that $50 million asset economically useful. Because once ownership begins, the clock never really stops. The strange thing about a private jet is that it doesn't need to move to become expensive. Even while sitting inside a hangar, the aircraft is consuming money. Pilots and crew still need salaries and recurrent training. Insurance premiums continue. Hangar and parking charges accumulate. Management companies handle scheduling, compliance, records, and maintenance. None of these expenses disappear simply because the aircraft spends another week on the ground. Then there is maintenance. Aircraft engines require inspections, scheduled servicing, and eventually extremely expensive overhauls. Every flight hour and operating cycle moves the aircraft closer to another maintenance event. Larger aircraft can be particularly costly because their engines, systems, and cabins are more complex. Even the technology inside the aircraft creates expenses. Navigation databases need updates. Communication systems require subscriptions. Cabin interiors eventually need refurbishment. Seats, carpets, lighting, entertainment systems, and other components wear out. And once the jet finally flies, another layer appears. Fuel can become one of the largest variable costs, while airports add landing, handling, parking, and navigation charges. A single trip can therefore generate thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in expenses before the passenger even considers catering or ground transportation. This creates a brutal economic equation. The more a jet flies, the more variable costs it generates. But the less it flies, the harder it becomes to justify the enormous fixed costs already being paid. In other words, an aircraft can be expensive when moving and expensive when sleeping. But private aviation has an even stranger problem. Sometimes the aircraft has to fly when nobody is inside. Imagine a passenger boards a private jet in New York and flies to London. The aircraft arrives, the passenger leaves, and the crew waits for the next assignment. But what if that next customer is in Paris? The aircraft has to move. That flight, carrying no paying passenger, is called an empty leg, and it reveals one of the strangest problems in private aviation. Sometimes the most expensive part of the journey is moving an aircraft that nobody is using. Commercial airlines are built around scheduled networks. Thousands of passengers are grouped onto predetermined routes, allowing one aircraft to generate revenue from many seats at once. Private aviation works differently. Flights are arranged around individual customers, which means aircraft constantly have to reposition themselves to wherever the next demand happens to be. Consider the economics. A jet may burn thousands of dollars worth of fuel repositioning between airports while still generating zero passenger revenue. Crew costs, landing fees, maintenance exposure, and other operating expenses continue accumulating. Multiply that across thousands of repositioning flights, and the inefficiency becomes enormous. So operators try to solve the problem by selling the unused capacity. This is where empty leg marketplaces come in. If an aircraft already needs to fly from London to Paris, an operator may offer the seats to another customer at a steep discount. Suddenly, a flight that would have generated no passenger revenue can recover part of its cost. But there is a catch. The passenger has to fit the aircraft's existing schedule and route. The opportunity can disappear as quickly as it appears. And that brings us to the industry's bigger question. What if the person paying for the jet isn't actually the person who owns it? What if the person paying for the jet isn't actually the person who owns it? The image of private aviation usually begins with one person, one jet, and one enormous bill. But that is only one version of the industry. Private aircraft can be owned outright by an individual or corporation, but it can also become part of a much larger commercial system. Aircraft management companies can handle pilots, maintenance, scheduling, compliance, and operations while the owner retains the underlying asset. And when the owner isn't using the aircraft, something interesting can happen. The jet can be offered for charter. Instead of sitting on the ground generating nothing, it can carry paying customers. The owner may earn charter revenue while a management company handles the complicated business of operating the aircraft. The money doesn't necessarily eliminate ownership costs, but it can offset part of them. Then there is fractional ownership. Instead of buying an entire aircraft, several customers can purchase shares in one. Each participant receives access to the aircraft for a defined amount of time, spreading the enormous cost across multiple users. Jet cards and membership programs take the idea even further. Customers don't necessarily own the aircraft at all. They pay for access to private aviation, often through prepaid hours, memberships, or guaranteed availability. Suddenly, the economics look very different. The aircraft is no longer simply a luxury sitting in a billionaire's hangar. It becomes an asset whose value depends partly on how efficiently it can be utilized. Every additional paying passenger can help distribute fixed costs across more revenue, producing activity. But this creates a more important question. If ownership can be divided, access can be sold, and unused flight time can generate revenue, then the real game isn't simply buying a jet. It's designing who owns the asset, who operates it, who uses it, and who carries the financial risk.